Welcome back. Yes, indeed, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele joins us here. He's the chairman, Presidential Committee, Tax and Fiscal Policy Reform. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So we're here, yes, as you said there, you want to reduce the tax to a single digit, harmonized tax law, but you also said you reviewed the 2017 National Tax Policy. So where are we now at the moment?
Yes, thank you very much. So this committee was set up, inaugurated 8th of August, 2023. So we've done a little over 2 months now. And our mandate was broadly around fiscal governance, essentially saying, how do we manage ourselves? Finances, debts, revenue, and coordination. Number 2 was revenue transformation. That's tax, non-tax. Non-tax would include government assets, natural resources, and government-owned enterprises. And the third pillar is growth facilitation, essentially saying, well, the only way you can actually generate revenue sustainably is allow businesses to thrive and for individuals to prosper, and then they give you part of that in form of taxes. We broke that down into subcommittees. Actually, we meet every day. Sometimes we have 2 meetings. There's at least 1 subcommittee meeting every day. Our work was divided into 3 phases, or you can call them milestones. The first one was 30 days quick wins. That's the way we described it. Second phase, critical reforms. And third phase is implementation of whatever was still outstanding. One very good thing about this committee is it's not a committee to write reports and then hope and pray that it's implemented. The mandate is you come up with an idea today, we approve tomorrow, you help us implement the day after as you continue to think about that initiative. Yeah? Oh. So this report was actually ready 30 days after we were inaugurated. We were not very lucky with the timing. Mr. President had to travel to India the following day for G20, then United Nations General Assembly, then October 1st. So, but what we did in the process of waiting for Mr. President was to then go ahead and start engaging with the different agencies that we need to implement recommendation. It turns out to be a blessing in disguise, actually, because what that meant was we're able to receive more inputs and, fine-tune some of the things we had recommended. For example, the CBN leadership came on board after our 30 days. And some of the recommendations we have, by the way, you can't dictate to the CBN, so we're only saying to them our thoughts, reason for thinking like that, and how we think that the monetary and fiscal can collaborate and work together in solving those problems. And they have been very, very receptive. Same thing with the Honorable Minister of Finance, Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Federal Revenue Service, Customs Service. So we've been having those engagements since then. In fact, we had a very nice a productive retreat with the Senate over the weekend. Almost everybody, I think all of them were there. And they also even invited some former Senate presidents, preparing their minds to say, we're coming, we don't understand why we have so many taxes in Nigeria, just creating problems for everyone. We want to go into the Constitution itself and address the problem from the roots. Let's put it there and let it be clear. Clearly define the taxing rights of the different levels of government. This is what you can collect.
From local government to state.
Local government to state to federal. And here are your responsibilities. In fact, what we're trying to do is start first with the responsibility and make sure that you have corresponding revenue to deal with those, responsibilities. So what we did yesterday was to submit that report, officially to Mr. President. And we were very glad because, Mr. President was even asking where we said we need to talk to FEC because we want to, one, carry all the cabinet members along because our work actually touches on everything within the economy. And Mr. President said, do you need a special session? Like, if coming on Monday will not be enough, we'll just set up one just for you. That was very good. And the Senate, like I said as well, the retreat they had was solely on our work for 2 full days. So very positive. So far, the signs are good. But, fingers crossed, I'm not holding my breath. We'll see what we can do. So, because at the end of the day, it's about implementing those recommendations and implementing them properly.
So we'll look at some of the other phases next. But pardon me, but So what should be expected, either from a normal taxpayer or a business at the end of the day with this? What should they expect? Because sometimes, I know you know the challenge of implementation, but ideally, what is the mindset?
Yeah. So, some of these, they say the devil is in the details. Some of the issues that people are dealing with are things that you have to really go into the very minute details. Because to that person, I'm trying to sell, whatever it is, adire. I'm doing it in Abeokuta. I need to supply to someone in Lagos. And then my life is complicated because, the Okada rider that is taking it there or the bus driver has been stopped 15 times. At some point, you didn't have the money to pay them. They've taken two adire away from you. Somebody has removed the side mirror, right? It's almost like living in a jungle. So what we're trying to do is to say, why we cannot solve some of those problems in 30 days or even 60 days. We are already discussing with the subnationals. So I was at NEC at their last meeting, and the governors were actually very, excited about our recommendations. One of it is we can agree that we are suspending those taxes: bicycle tax, wheelbarrow tax, haulage tax, advert tax, all those things that. And by the way, when we look at the data, we are making about 98% of our revenue across all levels of government combined from less than 10 taxes. So why do you have like 200 others? Just creating problems for everyone and funding criminals, in my view. So we're saying to them, can you please agree with us? Because if we decide we are suspending a tax, nobody can take us to court, right? But we can't impose it on you until such a time that we all agree and amend the Constitution, which would take some time. So what Nigerians should expect, particularly if you are at the bottom of the ladder or a small business owner, is a lot of relief. Some of those taxes should go away. We also want to look at impediments beyond taxes, including overregulation. And sometimes it's just the fact that you don't have access to the right information. Part of what we have discussed with the governors is that the windfall, I don't know whether that's what you call it, from subsidy removal and harmonization of FX rates and windows, is giving them significant additional revenue. And we have developed a framework of how they should spend it. Don't go and build flyovers or say you want to go to the moon. That's not our priority. We have seen that people are in multidimensional poverty because of access to health, education, safe drinking water, food security. Those basic things, let's start with that. Why don't you do road from farm to market? So they stop wasting and losing 60% of the tomato they have worked hard to produce. Can we do solar power storage? Can we do vocational centers? Can we do for skills and so on and so forth? We then said to them that we want to create a national platform that would encourage transparency. What do we intend to do? A very simple platform where you have all the 36 states, you have the federal government, and you have the FCT, 38. You can go there anytime select anything that is of interest to you. Let's say you select Lagos, and you're interested in a TOSI. It gives you all the local government. You get to a TOSI, it tells you everything, the location, the project, the award. You see video, you see photos. We're already speaking to some civil society organizations like Budget. They have a very solid structure across Nigeria already to monitor things like this. But more importantly, we are mobilizing Nigerians. Somebody would then visit and take a photo and say, this is an audio project, it does not exist. Put it there, we validate it. So, those are some of the interesting things we are trying to do, because it's not just about taxes and revenue. I even think that the bigger conversation is the quality of spending, or whatever little money we're making.
Well, interesting you mentioned Budget. I remember that they have something called Tracker, yes, which they used to, monitor projects across the country, and they use ordinary citizens to, check those projects in their communities. But I have been very interested when you mentioned people down the ladder as some of the prime examples that, you're working to make life easier for. You gave the example in that report of somebody selling pure water and, having to have 7 tickets in one day. Did that come from a result of your own when I mean own, I mean your committee's research on what exactly the life of the common man was.
Yeah, thank you. So thanks, Mark. So we have, people from all walks of life in the committee, and in our secretariat we have about 30 people. NESD alone gave us 10. Joint Task Board, another 10, and a few other organizations. And then we have 46 students from 23 institutions across Nigeria, and that we also co-opted. So altogether, the strength of the committee is well over 100 across all the states in Nigeria. In addition to that, what we have done, even though we said this was phase one, quick wins, intentionally, we're not supposed to start engaging with everybody because you couldn't do that in 30 days. We wanted to do things where there's general consensus as to what we should do, just that nobody did anything about it. Despite that, we've also been very, very deliberate in engaging strategically with some of the people that we think will be impacted by what we're trying to do in this first phase. Part of that was MATA, the market traders people. So they said to us, these are the things we're dealing with, and they gave that particular example. Also in my, previous life at PwC, these are things I did as well. Of course, those were not clients of PwC. They couldn't pay PwC, but out of my personal interest, I went to Alaba, I went to Onisha Market, I went to Balogun. So I have related with people, real people, just trying to earn a honest living. And their lives have been frustrated. There was a woman who, after, her account was frozen because somebody just took the turnover in the account, calculated VAT and withholding tax. I said the woman was owing XYZ, and then they froze the account. And the woman had just borrowed the money. So, sometimes you want to shed tears. Like, why are we doing this to ourselves? There's also a story of a woman, a tailor. You carry the base of the machine, you put the top together, you get there, put it somewhere, put it on top, and you hope that people will show up. There was no money for transport fare. So she trekked to the roadside where she did the work. And then the first person that showed up said they were from local government and she needed to pay 400 naira. And the woman said, well, I have not 1 naira. Can you please wait until evening? And they took the head of the machine and ran away. And she started crying. So this is, you don't want to imagine what those people are going through. And they have no means to defend themselves, right? They cannot hire lawyers. They don't even understand what the law says. So they can't even say whether you're wrong or not. At best, they start begging you, say, okay, madam, pay 300. They'll pay and then thank you. That's so unfair in terms of what we've been doing to our people. That's why we are really prioritizing those people. So even though we didn't have enough time for engagement at this phase of our work, we still engage with them. We are now at a phase where we've started our public consultation, and we want to meet with everyone. One of the groups we want to meet with are Nigerians living with disabilities. And to be honest, one thing that I remember today, and it gladdens my heart every time, is there was a man on a wheelchair, and then he stopped me. He said, are you Mr. Oyedele? And I said, yes. And then he already opened it on his phone. They said, we're the one that posted this, and it was my post on how we engage with people living with disability. And he said, thank you for remembering us. We're working on our submission and we'll send to you. Right, so that engagement, even Nigerians in diaspora, we listen to them, farmers, traders, national investors. That process is just commencing. As soon as we publish the platform or just sending in submission, within 3 days, we got input from all 36 states in Nigeria. I was amazed myself. So we'll do extensive consultation. We'll go to Nigerians and explain to them what we have been asked to do. We'll listen to them so they can give us their input.
How do you intend to do this engagement? Because I think that's going to be the biggest challenge. Absolutely,
absolutely. So we are trying to do that in a way that we do not leave anyone out. So we have a website, dedicated website. We've created some simple forms. You go there, you can fill it out. We have dedicated email account, WhatsApp number. We've shared all of that. But the reality is that Nigerians who don't have access to all of this. So we have physical addresses where they can send information to. What we're also trying to do is those students we have across Nigeria, We're also speaking to the Bar Association. We want to speak to accountants, ICANN, ANAN, and CITN members, and use their reach across Nigeria as point of contact with Nigerian people. Essentially what we're saying is, if you want to write, you don't even have to write in English, right? You can even record a voice if you have those devices, or ask somebody to help you write longhand, put it in an envelope and submit it. So these young people that we are training will help us analyze some of this information and extract them out. The plan is we then analyze that. The ones that you submit online will be very easy to analyze. We've done it by sector, by stakeholder group, whether you're an individual, a business in Nigeria, multinational, because sometimes you need to drill down to where the problem is and target it for your solution and proposals. So now beyond that, we then do town halls. We'll do loads of online meetings. So for the guys, like multinationals, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, those guys have the ability to join you online. We'll do plenty of online meetings. So you go on Zoom, we listen to you, make presentations, take your inputs, properly recorded, and we'll process everything. The commitment we have to everyone is everyone who has something to say will be heard.
Oh, I know Ayo wants to come in, but I want to quickly ask whether you have you received any pushback?
Certainly. I think it would be naive for us to think that we will not get pushbacks because you're trying to, in a way, reset certain things that will be different from the status quo. And to the extent that there are people who are benefiting from the status quo as it is, they will fight back. And these are very powerful people with loads of resources. We've seen a lot of that already. I won't go into the details. But we think that at the end of the day, our collective will help us push through.
Okay. Ayo.
Marco, let me start from that particular point that you raised with Mr. Oyedele about the pushbacks. Just about a few weeks ago, that perhaps is it one of those pushbacks, the information that came from the FIRS that some amount of money was paid to your committee. I know you put a statement out at that time, but is that one of those pushbacks, or it was just a misunderstanding?
Yeah, thanks, Ayo. So one editor, said to us that they were being offered money to write against the work we're doing. And I said, well, we expect that. Up to you if you think that that's worth your conscience. So the issue about the budget for my committee, I think, it came out from a newspaper report alleging that the former head of the FRS had approved some amount illegally, and then in the process they mentioned the Presidential Fiscal Reforms Committee. Initially, I thought I would just ignore it. And later I said to myself, because even members of the committee were saying, members of my committee were now asking, you didn't tell us about this. I said, okay, if you don't address perception, it can impact on the work of this committee. Once people start having, you're just like them, so why should we listen to you? So I thought to then put out that very elaborate explanation that the bulk of that money, which we haven't even spent, was something we requested that should be included in our budget because it was a project that I have been involved with the Joint Task Board for 3 years now. It was a session that was hosted by former President Buhari. They call it a National Task Dialogue, and I was invited to speak. And there I said to them, we're facing shadows that if we really want to solve Nigeria's revenue problem, focusing on tasks particularly, that you need intelligence within the system, such that you don't have people in the task net with one finger. So if you are worth 100 million naira, why is your tax 2,000 naira, right? So that process of getting intelligence, which is what most countries are doing, small, big, and large, countries are doing it. So Nigeria can. So we came up with that idea. We call it data for tax. The other good thing about that project is it helps you to identify who is poor without having to ask people. And you can immediately transfer money to their account if they have bank account, or transfer to their phone like food stamp. So it's also good for planning. So we then explained to say, we haven't spent the money is there. Nobody is, I'm not even being paid. I was asked whether I'll be, I want to earn a salary, and I said, no, don't pay me because I know you can't pay me. If you pay me the amount that I think I deserve, nobody will believe in this committee anymore. They will say I'm stealing money. So let it be known that you're not paying me. And then there will be no doubt as to the commitment and sacrifice that myself and members of the committee, we have decided we will make for our country.
Okay. Well, just one more thing, one or two other things here. Part of what your report has been analyzed to do as a quick win borders on the 43 items on ban from accessing forex in the official market, and as well as a fiscal policy review of other items prohibited for imports in Nigeria. How is that likely to happen? I know you are still waiting for the president's green light on execution, but speak to us about those, because a good number of people are wondering, how can you unban things that can be produced in Nigeria?
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Aya, for asking this question. So part of what we're trying to do, working together with the monetary authorities, is to say, why is it today that we have what we call the parallel market? And you can call it the alternative market. And that market decides for us something as fundamental and critical for our economy as the exchange rates. Today, you can move. I was speaking to a friend yesterday who said to me that she called someone, I think BDC, and said, I have some dollars to sell. What's the rate? But said, yeah, we don't know the rate. Tell us the rate you want, and we'll find someone who is willing to pay that amount. And by the time you close in the evening, they say that's the exchange rate for today. And tomorrow we start from that point, right? Yeah. Completely ridiculous. So the plan we have is a plan that says, why don't you take all the legitimate transactions out of the parallel market? Because we ourselves as a country, we have given legitimacy to the black market, and we call it parallel markets. If you take everything that is legitimate out of it and leave behind illicit transactions and speculative demand, that rate can be 5,000 and nobody will report it. Almost every country in the world has a black market. It's not reported because somebody is going to ask you, okay, what's your interest in illicit flow? And so that was a very important first step of saying these items were not actually banned from importation. They were only just banned from accessing FX in the official market. So we had to then move them out to come to the clean market. The second thing we're planning to do is bring all the legitimate participants. So we've done transactions. We'll do participants. Whether you are BDC, whether you are fintech doing some apps, whatever it is, we'll bring you in. The CBN will introduce their rules for registering you. Doing FX transaction will be much simpler than it has been. And that way, we have a sight of what everybody is doing. That's number one. Number two, you stop the arbitrage. What's happening now is some exporters said to me that they have money abroad, but they wouldn't bring it in. And I said, why? They said, well, the rule says they must give it to the CBN. CBN will collect it at 770-something. When they now need to import raw materials for their manufacturing, they can't find in that official market. They go to the parallel market and buy at 1,200. It doesn't make sense. So they're keeping their money abroad. So those inflows will start coming in. We've spoken to many Nigerians abroad, and they said to us, some estimate that we have is up to 80-90% of diaspora remittances today is externalized. Somebody collects the dollars and the pounds, keep it abroad, and find naira to pay you in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. So those are the things we are trying to fix. So from the fiscal side, those 43 items are actually more than 1,200 from the HS code. So we're going through them one by one with a policy direction that says, if this item is not needed in Nigeria like toothpick, why are we importing it? Maybe we need to just ban it. If the item is input into manufacturing, we'll say, why don't we even reduce the tariff on it? If the item is a finished product that is available in Nigeria by a local manufacturer, we would increase the tariff on it so we can protect the local manufacturer. But we are so mindful that while you are trying to protect the manufacturer, you don't allow them, because we don't want anybody to then exploit the consumers, whether they are from import from abroad or local producers. So we're trying to strike those balance within a framework of Nigeria's obligation to international community, World Trade Organization, ECOWAS treaties, and we're the big brother of ECOWAS, by the way, and the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. So for every item, we ask ourselves, is there an obligation internationally that we must respect? So that process is ongoing as we speak. And once we are done, that will then complement what the CBN has done. But we are very, very confident that in the medium to long term, this is in the interest of the country.
Well, we have to go. I mean, you have to run, but there are several areas, as we all know, and things that need to be done. But we'll have to get you back some other day to look at several other layers and components so that people could keep understanding. It's hugely important, and how a lot of people in the public sector seem to underestimate the importance of public communication and letting people know what's going on so they can be on the same page. It makes it a lot easier, a ton easier. Well, I want to thank you for coming on. Oyedele is the chairman, Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee. All the best to you and the team.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, well, back in a moment. Stay on with us.